Welcome to Baker Mansion, home of the Blair County Historical Society. You are about to walk through one of the most historic properties in central Pennsylvania. Blair County sits at an intersection of history, shaped by geography, fueled by industry, forged by war, and remade through innovation. The area's story is an example of the evolving American saga. As you enter the doors of the majestic Baker Mansion, you will learn many of these tales and more. In the early 1830s, the Allegheny Mountains were a deceptively beautiful place. The high elevations and terrain made both transportation and settlement difficult. Travel and trade was done by Conestoga wagons. This was the best means of transportation at that time. It took 23 days to get from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, when the dirt roads were in good condition. Many of these natural elements were overcome by a groundbreaking canal system that ran statewide. By the mid-19th century, the industrious Pennsylvania Railroad emerged as the domineering transportation force. The landscape that surrounds you was, and still is, full of rich natural resources. In 1811, two brothers-in-law from nearby Huntingdon, Pennsylvania, established Allegheny Furnace. It was the second charcoal furnace in what would become Blair County. The region was plentiful in raw materials needed to produce iron, including limestone, iron ore, timber for charcoal, and water power to operate the bellows. However, the site's remoteness from the markets for iron made business difficult for the early furnace owners. Not until the creation of the Allegheny Portage Railroad did the industrial transportation become more viable. This prompted a young merchant and distiller named Elias Baker to take action. Hailing from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, he desired to become a business owner in a simpler and more pristine region of the state. Teaming up with his cousin, Baker purchased Allegheny Furnace and its 3,300 acres for $50,000. In April 1836, the Bakers embarked upon the 170-mile carriage journey from Lancaster to this site. Elias's wife, Hetty, was 7 months pregnant as the family made its bumpy trip into the mountains. Elias wrote to his 12-year-old son, Woods, who remained in boarding school, "Your ma was very much fatigued. We found the roads extremely rough and bad, so much so that we broke one of the springs of our carriage." Even before Baker moved to this area, he was planning his future. He wrote of his desires for an impressive new home. This dream resulted in a decade-long quest to construct an iconic home, symbolic of his wealthy status. The end result was neither easy nor affordable. After going through multiple architects and economic hurdles, Baker Mansion was completed in 1849 after more than 4 years of construction. The cost? The high price of $15,000. You will learn more about this elite family upon entering their home. Despite the expenses, Baker Mansion remains a superb example of Greek Revival architecture, reminiscent of an ancient temple. The structure was indeed the elaborate home Mr. Baker dreamed of. The manor was only one component of a vast self-sufficient estate. On the property surrounding the mansion was a large complex of outbuildings, including sheds, stables, animal pens, a blacksmith shop, a general store, and a massive stone barn, nearly all of which have succumbed to the passing of time. Further to the west, along modern-day Union Avenue, stood the far more humble family cabins of the Allegheny Furnace workers, typical of the era in which workers' rights were not regulated. Baker's employees were often paid in company scrip, a form of currency that could only be spent at the site's general store. A small cemetery on the bluff above Union Avenue marks the burial ground of many workers and their children. Their now anonymous graves speaks to the disparity in wealth between the Bakers and their employees. Located slightly to the north is the Women's Club of Altoona, one of the few remaining structures of Allegheny Furnace. It is the oldest known building in Altoona. Behind the stone house, you can find the original furnace. This structure of heavy stone was able to withstand the extremely high temperatures generated when producing iron. Charcoal fueled the fire that would ultimately melt the inserted ore to extract the iron. Limestone acted as a flux, which caused impurities to be separated from the metal. The end result was cast iron products that could be shipped onto Pittsburgh and elsewhere. The site operated until 1884. By the 1890s, the surrounding landscape became increasingly industrialized. In 1902, the Altoona and Logan Valley Electric Railway constructed these car barns along Fifth Avenue. In 1910, the garage that now serves as the visitor center was constructed. The last of the Bakers lived at the mansion until 1914. Over the ensuing years, the Baker heirs sold off their family property and developed Baker Estates, an early version of the suburbs. This neighborhood has emerged as one of the most architecturally significant in the city. In 1928, the adjacent Mansion Park was constructed as the primary athletic field for Altoona High School. It remains an active venue for county-wide sporting events. By that time, neighboring Baker Mansion had become the new home of the Blair County Historical Society. In 1941, the mansion was purchased by the nonprofit organization and has been in continuous operation since. Rotating exhibits on far-reaching topics of county history are featured inside, while the grounds often serve as venues for concerts, educational activities, reenactments, and rental events, including weddings and reunions. After your tour of the mansion, please feel free to stroll the grounds and the surrounding neighborhood. You will be walking on what was once a vast industrial estate that represented the rise of a growing nation. Walk in the footsteps of those who have gone before us. These powerful stories of Blair County stitch together a rich mosaic of our past, present, and our future.